there are the public institutions who are going to be operating 24/7, and there are also private entities.
So they will have different people running shifts.
Exactly.
So
On their own.
If the demand is not there.
I tell you that the problem is not that the demand is not there, the demand is there. John Mahama is not a waster. But you don't need money per se to implement 24-hour economy.
Hi, good day, and welcome to another edition of the Lowdown here on GhanaWeb TV. My name is Daniel Ojo. Today we're having a conversation with the National Communications Officer of the NDC, Sammy Gyamfi. He's a lawyer and a politician, firebrand at that. But today we'll have a conversation about what the NDC's 24-hour economy, that's their policy proposal, is all about. There are those who say it's a big deal in terms of revitalizing the Ghanaian economy. And there are those who criticize it and say, really, what is it about? It's just another big slogan from one of the major political parties. What really is it about? Sammy Gyamfi will give us an insight into what it is and how it is supposed to change the Ghanaian economy. Sammy, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Time. Always good to see young people doing great things. Another young politician and lawyer.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, let's start with the 24-hour economy. You've had different people talk about it. The NDC say it's ruffled feathers, and the MPP and the sympathizers of the MPP say this is nothing new. Digitalization is ensuring that we are running a 24-hour economy, and supply and demand is going to always dictate whether or not an economy is going to be 24 hours. What really is the 24-hour economy?
Well, the 24-hour economy is simply going to be a deliberate strategy or policy by the next NDC Mahama government to create an enabling environment for certain public institutions and private entities to operate 24/7 round the clock, in 3 shifts of 8 hours each.
Right.
The objective is to create sustainable, decent, well-paying jobs for the teeming unemployed people, particularly the youths of this country. Now, contrary to what our opponents would have you believe that this is just another slogan, the 24-hour economy strategy is a well thought through, policy or strategy. It was first contemplated, envisioned, and captured in the 40-year development plan, which was developed by the National Development Planning Commission under the leadership of Dr. Nimoy Thompson when we were in office. So if you check Ghana's 40-year development plan, which this failed Akufo-Addo Bawumia government jettisoned for a so-called Ghana Beyond Aid agenda, you will see the 24-hour economy strategy in this 40-year development plan. Again, this is not the first time we are even going into an election with a promise of creating a 24-hour economy if elected. In 2020, this same policy was captured in our People's Manifesto. Why is it important to know this? It's important to know this so that you can appreciate that this is not just a vote-winning slogan. A lot of thinking has gone into it. Else, it wouldn't have found space in the 40-year development plan, which is a very serious public policy document of the government. Now, when we say that the 24-hour economy means that the government is going to implement a deliberate strategy, a deliberate policy, to encourage certain key government institutions and private entities to operate 24/7 in 3 shifts of 8 hours each. The question is why? Why do we need that? The answer is simple: productivity and job creation. Because you cannot be productive as a country if you operate an 8-hour work shift without more. In the advanced jurisdictions that we all travel to, that Ghanaians go for job opportunities and all that, they have been able to create jobs and prosperity for their people because they have deliberate 24-hour economy strategies. Today, an advanced jurisdiction like London in the United Kingdom is implementing a strategy called 24-hour economy strategy. If you go to Sydney in Australia, they have the same thing. New York has the same thing. You see, so the question, the issue is this: you cannot be productive if you operate 8 hours. You need to be operating multiple shifts. You need to be operating 24/7.
Okay.
And that is the main rationale for this policy. So somebody may ask, how will the policy be implemented?
I think that's the important
now,
question.
there are the public institutions who are going to be operating 24/7, and there are also private entities. With regards to the public institutions, we are looking at institutions with huge consumer traffic, huge customer traffic. That affects the efficiency of the delivery of their public services, and also affects the quality of the services the citizenry get from them. A typical example is the Ghana Passport Service. Today, when you apply for a passport online, thanks to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, who introduced the online passport application system in 2016, sometimes you get dates that are months away for your appointment. You know, where a picture is taken of you, your form is printed and all that. And even after that appointment, you still have to wait for months. For example, I know those who applied for passports this month of February in Kumasi, whose appointments days are in April. In Kumasi, some are getting June. You understand? That is not an efficient passport service delivery from the citizenry. And that has to be improved. There is no serious country in the world that has that kind of system where citizens apply for common passports and they have to wait for months. So His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is saying that under the 24-hour economy strategy, we are going to have 24-hour operating passport services.
So do we have different people running shifts?
Exactly. So one goes to work for, say, from 8 a.m. and closes by 4 p.m., 8-hour shift. Another goes at 4 p.m. and closes at 12 a.m., 8-hour shift. Then another goes at 12 a.m. and closes at 8 a.m., 8-hour shift. So it is 3 shifts, 8 hours each non-stop.
So
that is the ideal standard.
Backlog.
Exactly, because if the passport office has a workforce of, hypothetically speaking, say 100,000 for the one shift that they have run over the years, and they are adding 2 additional shifts for the public good, to give citizens a better service, to render a service of value, and to get revenue in return, what do you think will happen? The workforce will double or triple. You understand? So that is what we are talking about. Look at the DVLA. There is a huge customer traffic at the DVLA. You go to the DVLA today, you see people in queues trying to get a common driver's license. Those in queues trying to register their motorcycles, their vehicles, and what have you. Those who are in long queues waiting for it to get to their turn for them to get a roadworthy insurance and so on. And sometimes these people have to pay bribes to those we call Goro boys to be able to access these services timeously. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama says that should not be the case.
But the DVLA
we need
will be open for
a 24-hour operating DVLA.
So
we need
at
a 24-hour.
midnight there will be people there.
Of course. And if they are operating 24/7, that is going to have a cascading effect on the informal sector. Because that woman who sells rice in the morning at the Prince of the passport office in Accra or Kumasi or Sunyane would do so, as they are doing now. But in the evening, because they are operating and customers will be coming there, somebody else can sell Kelly Willy, another person can sell Indomie. I'm just using that as an example of the cascading effects of the 24-hour economy, even on the informal sector. You understand? And so the ports and harbors, look at the traffic there. Today you go there in Kabus, despite the new terminal John Mahama built, which has made our port the second largest, in the whole of West Africa, the MPS terminal. The port still operates, Takrade operates 8 hours. Tema, now MPS, thanks to Mahama, the visionary nation builder, operates 24/7, but with serious challenges because customs doesn't operate 24/7. The financial institutions don't operate 24/7. And so even though MPS operates 24/7, there are certain things that if you need to do to clear your goods, you're unable to do so. John Mahama says, let's get customs, let's get the financial institutions, let's get MPS, let's get the Takrade ports, the Gapua, all to operate 24/7. So that when your goods arrive into the country, you wouldn't have to wait for days and weeks before you're able to clear it. And you wouldn't have to transport that during the day on the Temamoto way when there is so much traffic. You can be doing this round the clock. It eases the traffic, it enhances efficiency and productivity among the citizenry, and at the end of the day, it gives the people of this country better public services that the states get value for. That is very important because these additional workforce will have to be paid. And we are saying that once citizens are getting better services, the state will be getting more revenue. to be able to pay these people. So at the end of the day, you get productivity. These are just 3 public institutions that I'm using as an example to demonstrate to you what we are going to do relative to the implementation of the 24-hour economy for public institutions. Now let's come to the private sector.
Okay.
You see, the private sector is the engine of growth for every economy, especially a free market economy such as ours. Now, in Ghana today, the norm is that businesses operate only 1 shifts. 99% of businesses operate 1 shifts. Only a few operate 24/7.
They say the demand,
on their own.
If the demand is not there.
I tell you that the problem is not that the demand is not there, the demand is there. Is there demand for sugar or not?
I believe so.
We spend millions of dollars every year importing sugar. Is there demand for rice or not?
There is.
We spend millions of dollars importing 750,000 tons of rice in 2022 alone. The things we consume, 99% of that are imported. How come that the importers are always able to bring in cargoes of these things? From the liquid soaps to the paint, to the cement, to the iron rods, to the steel, to the clothes we wear, and they go again. Because when they bring it, there is demand, people buy. Now, why is it that our companies here are not able to compete? Because the cost of production is too much. So they are not competitive. There are serious overhead costs that inhibits their competitiveness, that increases their cost of production and makes it difficult for them to scale up production. What is the high cost of electricity? Check all the companies. The cost of electricity in Ghana is one of the highest, particularly under this government, where the price goes up every quarter. So His Excellency John Dramani Mahama says that under the 24-hour economy, we are going to have first of its kind time of use tariffs, which means that businesses that operate 24/7 will get cheaper power. It exists in other advanced jurisdictions, and it is very simple to implement. You just install at the premises of these businesses running 24/7 what is called the time of use meters, which are calibrated to charge the normal fee, the normal tariff for electricity consumed during the day, but in the night, it charges them a lower fee. So it makes sense, it makes economic sense for businesses to want to operate in the night because they get an incentive in the form of cheaper power.
Why? What if they stop operating in the day and just work in the evening?
Because the meter is calibrated to run 24/7. So if during the day it's running 0, the system will pick it up. And that is why, you see, in every policy you introduce, human beings will try to take advantage of.
Right.
That is why you need strong monitoring and evaluation systems to prevent such mischiefs. And that is why we have said that the implementation of the 24-hour economy will be based on a new employment act, first of its kind, which will spell out the modalities and the regulatory framework. So there will be institutions monitoring. So you can't take a time of use meter and say, I will only operate in the night and get cheaper power and not operate in the day. You won't get that incentive because it is for those operating 24/7. And the meter is calibrated to detect such anomalies and such, mischiefs. Aside that, we've spoken about the tax burden on businesses. Check all our neighboring countries. Ghana has one of the highest tax burdens for businesses. I mean, for a government that promised to move us from taxation to production, you would have expected that they would have at least reduced the tax burden. But they have increased it beyond bearable. Now the tax burden for businesses is simply unbearable. People are paying COVID levy, they are paying growth and sustainable levy. Levies that don't make sense.
Everyone needs the perfect snack to munch on during a fun moment.
Wow.
Enjoy the tasty McBerry Twist cupcakes, deliciously baked and packaged for a sweet treat. Premium quality cakes baked with love for all, enriched in butter and milk.
Yummy. Oh,
McBerry Twist cupcakes, simply irresistible. Try one today. This advert is FDA approved.
And all this is affecting the cost of production. And that is why the producers of rice will not want to operate 24/7. Because if I operate 24/7 and produce that rice, I can't compete with cheaper rice imports.
Okay.
You understand? So John Mama says, I'm giving you significant tax incentives to reduce your cost so that you can produce at a competitive price level and take advantage of the existing demand for those products.
Okay.
You understand? So there is existing demand, but they are not able to take advantage of that. The existing demand will absorb these local producers. If government gives them the tax incentives, the cheaper power, and above all, strategic financing to be able to scale up production at a competitive level.
Okay.
Strategic financing in what way? You recall, the NDC Mahama government introduced the Exim Bank facility, the Ghana Export and Import Bank.
Right.
Which was a consolidation of ADIF and EDIF and so on. This is a fund which is supposed to be used to support strategic businesses who produce not just for the domestic market, but also for exports. Now this government has come, well, they've used part of the fund to support their so-called 1D1F initiative, but they have also misused part of the funds on useless ventures. For example, Canadian Japan tells us that $10 million of this Exim Bank money was given to Chama Untumi, Ashanti Regional Chairman of the MPP. We don't know what he used the money for. Not too long ago, they gave millions of Exim Bank money to Shatawale and Stoneboy. I don't blame the musicians. They didn't steal the money. Our authorities of the day gave them the money. But what are we saying? These funds are supposed to be channeled into agriculture, agribusiness, and agro-processing. We want our farmers to produce more cashew, produce more cocoa, produce more tomatoes. And when they produce that, we don't want to continue this gorgeous bag phenomenon of exporting in raw form. So, John Mahama has spoken about strategic agro-processing factories in all regions to process and add value. And we are saying that these factories will be supported with cheaper power, strategic financing, tax incentives, and security. A security architecture that makes them able to operate within a safe and secure environment so that they can operate 24/7. This is very easy. So you're going to have 24/7 agro-processing companies. You're going to have 24/7 manufacturers and industries. You're going to have 24/7 construction, like you see in advanced jurisdictions. You see roads being done in the night. You're going to have 24-hour economy, sanitation, business, and so on. And we've given you the sectors who are going, and we've said there is no limit to the sectors. Because the policy permeates every sector, every fiber of our lives.
Your critics say that how does this affect the chunk of the workforce that is in farming, because we are heavily agrarian economy? And then if you say the economy is so battered, how soon are you going to implement this, because the coffers are as empty as it can be? Okay, so first of all, on how the impact of the 24-hour economy on farming. Now, farmers produce to meet demand. Okay. Now, when there is no demand for what they produce, they lose a lot of what they produce through post-harvest losses. And that is why when you go to Lowdown today, you will see that a lot of tomatoes that is produced go waste, because we don't have sufficient tomato processing factories in the country to buy these raw materials from the farmers when they produce them. But when John Mahama's 24-hour economy is in force, and we are supporting agriculture for domestic consumption and exports, farmers will be able to produce more because they know the factories are there to buy and to process. Today, if you go to my hometown, the Bono regions, the cashew business is dead. Because apart from the fact that the price, there are no guaranteed prices for the farmers. There are no factories to process the cashew. So the Indians come and buy it cheap and they send it to their countries. If we have even 3 cashew processing factories in that enclave, you know the jobs that will create, running 24/7. And the farmers will be producing more because they know the factories will buy. And they know that there is a cashew marketing board guaranteeing the price, as promised by John Mahama. So the 24-hour economy is a centerpiece of our agriculture, agribusiness, agro-processing, value addition, import substitution, transformational vision of John Mahama. That is the main driver of it. Okay. That is what the 24-hour economy is about. And let me just deal with this issue of demand. I told you that the demand exists already. Yeah. But let me tell you, I'm an economic policy analyst. And any person who understands economics will tell you that the forces of demand and supply can be stimulated even where it doesn't exist. Okay. So government has the power and the influence to stimulate demand.
Because government is the biggest spender in the economy. Government has the biggest procurement power. Nobody buys more cement than government in Ghana. Iron rods, steel, roofing sheet, paint, and so on. Nobody buys even food than government. The food the buffer stock supplies to the secondary schools, those that goes to the basic schools under the school feeding program are all procured by the state. So John Mahama says, I'm going to produce a deliberate buy Ghana agenda. He has spoken about Operation Feed Yourself and Operation Feed Industries. And he has spoken about a deliberate buy Ghana agenda. What are we going to do with that? We're going to use the spending power of the states to stimulate demand for what these companies will be producing. Typical example, there are companies in Ghana today manufacturing ceramic tiles.
Yeah.
But they're having to compete with cheaper imported tiles from China and Spain. And their cost of production is so high. So if John Mahama is giving them cheaper power, under the time of use system, under the 24-hour economy, they are going to be competitive. Tax incentives, strategic financing. And above all, John Mahama says that when government is buying tiles for his projects, we will buy the made in Ghana tile. Is that not demand being stimulated for that tile manufacturing company? So that if we have one, and that they are operating 8 hours now, they can operate 24/7 and employ more people? Is that not going to be an incentive to attract more people to go into that business and employ more people? So this is the vision.
Well, politicians say all of these things, fanciful things, very grand ideas.
Where would the money come from?
When they come into power, it's as though they forget everything that they have promised the Ghanaian.
Well, it is correct to say that some politicians are like that, but not all politicians are like that.
But NDC has been in power before.
Yeah, we've been in power before.
Your critics say that if you couldn't, at the height of your tenure in office, that electricity challenges were so rife. How do you operate a 24-hour
electricity
economy?
challenges that we inherited? One as a result of an act of God that disrupted the West African gas pipeline and affected the flow of gas to power our power plants. That was not the creation of John Mahama. Two, as a result of a generational shortfall, because successive governments had failed to invest in generation. John Mahama takes responsibility, unlike those making excuses today. Says he will fix it and fixes it by bringing in the power plants, America Power AXA. He brought in ESLA to clear the legacy debts and gave us the Tuabo gas processing plant, the biggest factory in Ghana, $1 billion investment to give us our own gas to power our power plants. He solved the problem. So that in itself should let you know that all politicians...
At an expensive price.
Of course, because it was an expensive problem. And that should let you know that all politicians are not the same. Because if it was our friends in the MPP, Jack Toronto and his younger brother, they would have been giving you excuses about how they inherited the problem. They would have still been whining and lamenting about the problem. But John Mahama was a different leader. This is a visionary leader. These leaders are rare to come by. A lot of people say a lot of things, negative things about John Mahama because they don't know him. When I see people running him down, I just say, you don't know the man. I don't blame you. But if you get the opportunity to get close to the man like some of us have got into, you will know that this is a man of vision, there's a man of candor, a man of empathy. He won't promise what he thinks he can do. Look at what he has done for us relative to our aviation sector. Today we can boast of the best airport in the whole of West Africa. Why? Because of John Mahama. Today we can boast of the biggest port in the whole of West Africa. Why? Because of John Mahama, who built the NPS port. Today we have the only quaternary hospital in the whole of West Africa, the University of Ghana Medical Center, 612 beds. Have you been there before?
I have.
Look, because of John Mahama. Look at the Ridge Hospital. Look at the projects he did. Look at the Circle Dubai interchange. Look at the Pokwasi interchange that he secured funding for. Obechebi that he secured funding for. Kaswa. Look at all these projects. So they are not the same. Some borrow for consumption, like Bawumia and Co. John Mahama borrows for investments that can pay for themselves. John Mahama is not a waster. John Mahama, look, you said something about people say that, oh, when you come, where will you get the money from? First of all, you don't need money per se to implement 24-hour economy. What you need is a political will, number one. And number two, what you need is a vision that sets out a pragmatic implementation framework. Once the will and commitment is there, and the plan is there, you can do it. Because at the end of the day, you're providing incentives. But of course, the incentives in the short term will lead to a drop in government revenue. If you are giving tax incentives and all that. And we know that. President Mahama says, look, the problem is not the introduction of more taxes. It is the introduction of efficiency in the mobilization of taxes. Because in this country, we have overtaxed the formal sector. And we are not even looking at the revenue mobilization opportunities that exist in the informal sector. And how we can widen the tax base. It's become a cliche that we've been paying lip service to. We can do differently and expand the tax base. We are not saying we will not introduce new taxes, but not the kind of crippling taxes that we have seen this government introduce, like e-levy, COVID levy, and all that. That one, make no mistake about it, the next NDC Mahama government will abolish it. And President Mahama says he means business when he says so. Okay. But aside that, the problem we have as a country is not that we don't have enough revenue per se. The problem is a problem of corruption and waste. The little we have is being misappropriated and stolen by a few greedy people in the government. And that is why the government can tell you and I that in this time of hardships and suffering, they wasted a staggering, a colossal 153 million cedis, equivalent to 1.5 trillion OCDs on the botched Ejapa scam. How can we accept this as a people? Do you know the number of jobs $12 million, 1.5 trillion can cost? Can create? PDS, how much did we lose through that? That PDS which was orchestrated and brought upon us by Bawumia for unlawfully and recklessly deciding to change a condition precedent into condition subsequent and the requirement of a bank guarantee into an insurance guarantee, which he didn't even have the diligence to check, and allowed a group of fraudsters to defraud us. Took over our 20 billion Ghana cedis ECG assets, ran it for 6 months, collected light bills from us to the tune of 1.5 billion cedis that today they have refused to refund to the state. Do you know what that money can do? Look at the money they have wasted on the so-called national cathedral.
So you go after those people.
Over 500 million cedis. That is some 5 trillion cedis on a so-called cathedral for God, which has turned out to be the biggest and most expensive hole in the world. The biggest fraud ever perpetrated by a group of people against God. How dare you that you say you are building a house for God? You convince men of God to come and support and lead this with their reputation, only to turn around and misappropriate the money, compelling them to resign. Today, Archbishop Duncan Williams is with another. They've all resigned because they've seen that the money is not going into the construction of any cathedral. It is going into private pockets. So these monies, the waste, if we cut the waste, if we cut the corruption, if we treat these stolen funds, there will be enough revenue for government for developmental purposes, such that giving people cheaper power or tax incentives will not be a problem under the 24-hour economy. All right. I mean, this government in only one day went for a cabinet retreat and spent 45 billion OCDs at PBS. In one day, they celebrated Independence Day 6 March at Cape Coast 2021 and spent 104 billion OCDs. They spent 153 billion old Ghana cedis on car tires and batteries in only 9 months. Look, the kind of looting which is going on, you have no idea. Never in the history of this country have the people of this country be so, I don't know what to even say. Never have we seen this kind of damage to the nation. Not only to our finances, but even to the moral fiber, the moral compass of the nation. And that is why we need change. We can't afford to give Akufo-Addo a third term by voting for his corrupt protege, Bawumia, who is only coming to protect Akufo-Addo and his corrupt cabal of family and friends from post-regime accountability. You need a new leader who can come and conduct transparent investigations, retrieve stolen funds for the state, and punish the perpetrators. All right.
Thank you for your insights. This has been another edition of The Lowdown on GhanaWeb TV. I'm sure you enjoyed this one. My name is Daniel Ojo. We're back another time with another edition. Until then, it's bye for now.